Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite games, and the things I like about it are apparent right from the title screen. The stylish 2D art accompanied by the rock soundtrack set the tone for the rest of the game. From the sleek menus to the gameplay, where Sonic and Co. blast through densely packed cityscapes, crazy action set pieces, and twisted mechanical evil layers, the game oozes style. Thrusting you immediately into the action, the game starts with Sonic jumping from a helicopter and boarding down the city streets. From this point onward, the Hedgehog won't be seen standing still. In all of his levels, he'll start off bursting onto the scene, usually going downhill, and always putting the player in control of a great amount of speed right off the bat. Despite the speed you get in this first segment, it's impossible to die, meaning that new players can still easily get acquainted with the controls. The section isn't mindless, however, with trick ramps that reward players with good timing, and with rings that reward you for making tight turns. At the end of the section, Sonic flies off the road and into a park. Even with the very first on-foot section, we see on display the amount of options the game typically presents you with. New players will opt for the stairwell, but experienced players will use faster methods like the grind rail or bouncing past the wall entirely. Following this, the player can either take the main path, or if they have enough speed, run up the wall and collect a 20 ring bonus. If you do take the low road, you can dispatch the enemy there with Sonic's homing attack. As the name implies, Sonic dashes forward and homes in on the enemy. Enemies can even be destroyed in a chain sequence. When bouncing off an enemy, you can choose to increase the amount of hang time and height you get from the dismount of a homing attack. This can be helpful when repositioning yourself over a pit. It can even help you reach higher ground, though you could also just dash through like a madman. Using the homing attack when an enemy's out of range results in an air dash, a quick burst of speed in the air which can help Sonic cross gaps or just keep his speed up. The speed from the air dash can be hard to control, however, which means it must be used carefully. The following section puts Sonic back onto the streets, on foot instead of on his board, but still going downhill, which means this is a great place to use the spin dash. You can hold the B button down to charge the spin dash. Releasing the button will shoot Sonic forward while he's rolled into a ball. In ball form, his downhill speed is increased. However, turning is precise, requiring a decent grip on the controls to be able to utilize properly. While Sonic's downhill speed is increased in ball form, his speed on flat ground is cut tremendously. Thankfully, the player can tap the B button to cause Sonic to uncurl, keeping the leftover speed from the spin dash. This means that one could spin dash downhill and then uncurl at the end of the slope to keep their speed. Sonic's spin dash also gives you great speed going into a jump and great height from a jump off an upward incline. However, Sonic's speed will be reduced based on airtime. All of these gameplay mechanics can be combined. For instance, you can spin dash jump to cross a seemingly impossible gap, and then air dash to go the rest of the distance. Or we can spin dash up an incline, jump, and then air dash to regain lost speed and avoid rocketing off the top of the slope. This combination of gameplay mechanics creates a free-flowing, fluid game where managing your speed with tricky moves is essential to getting a good time. Though there's more to the game than just time attack. The game also features a robust scoring system. Defeating enemies in a homing attack chain gives you points based on the amount in the chain. Rings can give you 10 points each. Landing tricks can give you a varying amount of points based on the player's timing and the trick performed. Special enemies that quickly disappear give 1,000 points when defeated. Invincibility power-ups double the amount of points you get for the duration of the power-up. And lastly, the time bonus rewards players with points based on their time. These aspects, combined with the free-flowing controls and the vertical multi-tiered levels, lead to a creative score attack experience, where the player is tasked with coming up with the best route through a level and using the character's moveset to the fullest to achieve a high score. By experimenting with the character's moveset, you can answer questions like, how far can I extend a homing attack combo? Maybe there are some enemies I can hit that seemed unreachable. Maybe I can start a combo at the highest tier of a level and continue it by dropping to a lower tier. How can I go as fast as possible to gain as many doubled points as I can during the invincibility period? What's worth skipping to get a better time bonus? This well-thought-out and creative scoring system just makes the game even more replayable. After one final set piece in Sonic's level, we move on to the Tails and Eggman levels. Tails and Eggman are in mechs this time around, and their levels feature lock-on shooting gameplay. In the mech, the player uses the control stick for both movement and aiming. They can press the B button to lock on with the gun and release to fire. The reduced focus on precise aiming keeps the segments focused on the platforming. Moving the control stick up left or up right won't immediately turn the mech, meaning you can still aim from side to side while going straight. The mechs also feature a hovering ability, allowing the player to cross large gaps or take shortcuts across the levels. Keeping speed with the mechs is tricky. Going down a straightaway will cause the mech to gain a great amount of speed, but turning improperly slows the mech down tremendously. The player must carefully combine jumping, hovering, and turning to keep speed. Going for a high score means locking onto as many enemies as you can at once, and firing to receive a massive point bonus. Improper aiming, however, will slow your craft down, resulting in a worse time bonus. Despite the differences in gameplay, these mech levels still focus on movement and speed, similar to the Sonic and Shadow levels. The third and final gameplay style, treasure hunting, has you playing as Knuckles or Rouge, and tasks you with exploring wide-open, non-linear levels to find randomly placed emerald shards. These levels feature a lot of verticality, like the Sonic levels, but unlike those levels, they're not so easily divided into tiers. This is because these levels are tailored to Knuckles and Rouge's unique abilities, gliding and climbing. Pressing the jump button in the air will send the characters into a glide, where they'll slowly descend. Gliding into a wall will cause them to start climbing. You can't gain height while gliding, so the only way to ascend is to climb and then glide to the next location. Many emerald shards are located in the air, sometimes swerving back and forth, meaning the player has to find a wall and jump and glide at the correct time to grab them. The later levels feature hard-to-navigate structures that the player must carefully climb and glide between to reach higher parts of the level. I feel like these levels test your spatial abilities the most. When attempting a score run on these levels, collecting each emerald shard quickly is what nets you the largest point bonus. Unfortunately, while very fun to play, these levels stand out from the other two gameplay styles because of how hard they are to optimize. The randomized emerald shards in these levels means that if you're gunning for the best score or the best time, then you'll have to either constantly restart the level or die until the patterns line up perfectly. Thankfully, 3 of the 4 bonus missions feature non-random objectives, which is great because you can play with these characters' movement to the fullest without having to go through any frustration. But it's a shame that the main objective had to be so tedious to optimize. Unfortunately, this is why I end up replaying these levels the least, despite the fun I have with them. But it's not all bad news. Located in every level is a Chow box. Breaking it open and collecting the Chow key allows the player to visit the Chow Garden, a sort of virtual pet simulator where you can raise these cute, blobby creatures called Chow. By giving them animals you find in the levels and chaos drives you collect from enemies, you can increase their stats. The stats are swimming, flying, running, and power. Leveling up these stats improves their performance in Chow races. But the real reason people play this section of the game is not just to raise stats. It's because the players become endeared to the Chow after seeing all the animations and little details packed into them to make them feel alive. Initially, after they hatch from their eggs, they'll crawl. Once their running stat is high enough, they'll walk. When you give a Chow a fruit, he'll start to eat it, but sometimes he'll look around and take his time with it, and sometimes he'll even just throw it away. But if the Chow hasn't eaten in a while, he'll chow down on it. At first, the Chow will struggle with swimming, but after enough time, he'll be able to do the front stroke and the back stroke. They can jump off a ledge and fly around. They can fall asleep, sometimes rolling onto their sides. And these are just some of the things they can do on their own. The level of detail increases once the player gets involved. The player can pet the Chow, pick them up, and even rock them. If you hold the Chow for too long, he'll try to wriggle free, that is, unless he really likes you. If a Chow likes you enough, he'll often stick close to you, looking up at you for attention, and if he's far away, you can whistle to him to get him to run towards you. If you abuse the Chow, he'll cry and run away from you. You can put hats on them. Giving them animals will allow them to take on their behaviors and features, and you can even mix and match animal parts to create unique combinations. Then there's the Chow Kindergarten, where they can learn over 20 actions like singing, drawing, and even playing the trumpet. They can plant seeds and water trees after winning enough races. You can purchase different colored Chow and then breed them, sometimes resulting in rare color combinations based on their alleles. I'm not kidding. You can make Chow Punnett squares and they really work. And finally, once they reach adulthood, they will evolve into a hero, dark, or neutral Chow based on what characters were used to raise them. The hero, dark, and neutral Chow can evolve further into a myriad of different variations based on their stats before and after evolution. The level of content and customization in the Chow Garden is insane. It's so fleshed out that it could be its own game. In an interview with Sonic Team about the A-Life system, the precursor to the Chow system in their previous game, Nights into Dreams, They stated that they hoped that players would get so into the simulator that they would become better at the game and achieve higher scores and ranks. I believe that philosophy holds true in this game as well, presenting an alternate type of replay value for players who are just starting out or are uninterested in going for a great time or rank. And finally, that brings us to the story. As one of the first mainline Sonic titles with voice acting, Sonic Team was still trying to establish the characters' personalities beyond their original Genesis outings. In the older games, it was easy to understand the characters just by looking at them. Sonic is cool and confident. Tails was like Sonic's little brother, eager to hang out with his cool older brother, but still timid and shy. Knuckles, who had more of a backstory, was the last of his kind, and due to his limited interaction with others, he didn't really get them. This led to him getting tricked by Eggman in Sonic 3, who took advantage of his naivete. So Knuckles is tough, but naive, and more than a little gullible. In this game, Sonic Team fleshes out and evolves their characters by showing how they interact with their opposites. Knuckles' new counterpart, Rouge the Bat, is manipulative and cunning. Throughout the story, she uses Eggman and other characters to get her way, and is always snooping around behind the scenes, in stark contrast to the loyal and straightforward Knuckles. Due to their differences, the two bicker back and forth till the very end while fighting over the Master Emerald. After Knuckles saves Rouge from a fall, Rouge reluctantly returns the Master Emerald to Knuckles, and the two get a little closer to understanding each other. Dr. Eggman is cold, calculating, and ruthless, the total opposite of Tails, which makes it all the more satisfying when the typically meek Tails stands up to him, despite thinking that Sonic had already been defeated. But the most interesting dichotomy is the one between Sonic and Shadow. Where Sonic is confident, Shadow is downright arrogant, claiming himself to be the ultimate life form and only referring to Sonic as that blue hedgehog. But unlike Sonic, Shadow's confidence is false. You see, during the hero story, Shadow appears to just be Sonic's pompous new rival, but in the Dark story, things get more complicated. We learn that Shadow was actually created by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik, 50 years ago, before being sealed away in a military base. After being freed by Eggman, Shadow promises to help him take over the world, but all is not as it seems. Shadow has visions of a girl named Maria, whom he swears to avenge. Throughout the rest of the Dark story, Shadow is haunted by these memories, which at one point are suggested to not even be real. He even rescues Rouge because she reminds him of Maria, not that he'd ever admit it. Unlike the other characters, though, Shadow doesn't complete his character arc until the unlockable last story. There we learn that Maria was the granddaughter of Shadow's creator, Gerald Robotnik, and that she was killed in a military raid after it was decided that Gerald's research into the ultimate life form was too dangerous and had to be shut down. Before Gerald was arrested, however, he hatched a plan for revenge. Once all 7 Chaos Emeralds were collected, the space colony would be set on a collision course with the Earth, ultimately destroying it. Shadow is the one to set this plan into motion, duping Eggman into gathering the Chaos Emeralds. While Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles have teamed up with Eggman and Rouge to try to stop the colony's descent, Shadow sits idly by, waiting for the end. Mission accomplished. That is until Amy begins to plead with him to help, and his true memories are finally awoken. He remembers the promise he made to Maria, to give everyone on Earth a chance to be happy. Shaken, Shadow promptly races to help the others. At the core of Shadow's character is his denial. He tricks himself into thinking that his dear friend Maria wanted to be avenged, despite the fact that she'd never wished that. He postures about being the ultimate life form, but it's an act. On the inside, he's hurt. It's these feelings, these hang-ups, that put him in stark contrast to his carefree, it-is-what-it-is counterpart. I also think that this is what makes the character so enduring, despite lackluster later appearances. Players related to that feeling of being closed off, that feeling of putting on a tough guy, I'm the best attitude despite how you feel about others and yourself. Ultimately, Shadow does redeem himself, helping Sonic and knocking the colony off its collision course, but it cost Shadow his life. Upon Sonic's return, Rouge asks if Shadow was really made by the Professor to carry out revenge on all mankind. Sonic says that it doesn't matter why he was created. What matters is that he gave his life and saved the planet. The game establishes that it doesn't matter who you are, or the titles you give yourself, like Ultimate Life Form, or even what you've done up to this point. It just matters that you do the right thing in the end. The game starts with these characters diametrically opposed to each other, but by the end of the game, They're just sitting, talking, having reached an understanding with each other, having broken down the barriers between the titles Hero and Dark. And that's how the game ends. Sonic Adventure 2 is a stylish, infinitely replayable game with inventive ideas and a great story. Thanks for listening. Sayonara.